I appear before you today on behalf of the defendant to respectfully request that he be granted bail, subject to appropriate condition. Will the magistrate court previously refuse bail? I will set out why that decision should be recognized in light of the defendant's changed circumstances, his willingness to comply with strict bail condition, and the significant personal and humanitarian factors that justify his release. The Hatfield Magistrate Court refused bail on three grounds. The defendant was already serving a period penalty related to a motoring offense at the time of the alleged offenses. He lacked established or permanent connection to the Hatfield area. There were concerns that he might be commit further offenses or fail to attend further court hearing. I fully acknowledge these concerns. However, I submit that they can be effectively mitigated by the condition the defense is proposing. Furthermore, new circumstances have emerged which make a compelling case for bail to be granted. Since the defendant's detention, his circumstances have changed significantly. His continuous incarceration is not only causing severe personal hardship but also affecting an elderly and vulnerable women who depend on him for both financial and physical support. Loss of employment and financial instability. Due to his detention, the defendant has lost his job, leaving him unable to pay rent or maintain financial independence. More importantly, he can no longer provide financial assistance to Mr. Yergit Pene, whom he has supported for years with a monthly payment of 200. His loss of income has left her in serious financial difficulty, which has only worsened due to her deteriorating health. Mr. Paine's health condition. The defendant has recently learned that Mr. Paine was hospitalized due to severe illness. She is expected to be discharged soon, but her primary caretaker is currently away for 6 weeks, leaving her without essential support. Mr. Paine is in fragile health and requires continuous care that the defendant is the only available person to provide. It is therefore submitted that if granted bail, the defendant would be able to resume his financial support for Mr. Paine and provide essential physical assistance during her recovery period.
Are you asking the court to give weight to the defendant's caring responsibilities? If so, can you explain how that aligns with the statutory criteria under the Bail Act 1975?
Yes, Your Honor, Will the Bail Act 1976 focuses primarily on factors such as the risk of failing to surrender, the offending, and interfering with justice. Court may also take into account relevant personal circumstances when they have a direct bearing on those risks. In R. Gill versus Crown Court at least 2004, the court recognized their strong personal responsibilities, particularly toward vulnerable dependents, can act as a stabilizing factor that reduces the likelihood of absconding or offending. In this case, the defendant rules has sought care for a seriously ill who may not only reflect his moral obligation but also reinforces his rootedness and accountability. These factors are directly relevant to the court assessment of bail risk. Your Honor, if released on bail, the defendant has a clear and structured plan that will allow him to integrate into society while fully complying with court requirements. He intends to live at Mr. Pioneer residence in South Shield at 1 Brown Boulevard, NE 32 ensuring she has the care she needs. Secure stable employment has a port operative at the port of Trinity, where a mutual acquaintance, Mr. Patrick Tullet, has informed him for an available position with an annual salary of 25,000. Remain accessible to the authorities and attend all further court hearing as required. This structured plan not only addresses the court concern their stability, but also demonstrates that the defendant is committed to leading a lawful and productive life if granted bail. Your Honor, will the concern raised by the magistrate court were understandable at the time the defendant is willing to submit to strict bail conditions to address those concerns. These conditions will ensure he will remain under supervision while allowing him to take responsibilities for his obligation. The defense proposes the following condition: residence requirement. The defendant will reside exclusively at Mr. Bryan's home in South Shield. This will provide stability and ensure that he is at a fixed and verifiable address. Electronically monitored curfew. The defendant will observe a curfew from 10 to 7 o'clock every night. Compliance will be monitored through electronic tagging, reducing the risk of reoffending. Regular police reporting. The defendant will report to the police station twice a week on Monday and Thursday between 1 and 3 o'clock. This ensures that he remains in regular contact with authorities. I respectfully submit that the defendant is not a flight risk, not a danger to society, and not a person who should remain in custody while awaiting trial. The proposed bail condition provide adequate safeguard, and granted bail under these conditions would serve the interest of justice. Therefore, Your Honor, I urge the court to grant bail under the condition outlined, ensuring that the defendant remains under lawful supervision while also fulfilling his personal and financial obligation. Thank you.
What assurance does the court have that the defendant will not reoffend, especially given that the alleged offense occurred while he was already serving a prior penalty?
Your Honor, that is a fair concern. However, I would respectfully submit that the circumstances have significantly changed since the time of the alleged offenses. The defendant now has a fixed and supervised living arrangement, a clear path to lawful employment, and an accountability framework through electronic monitoring and police reporting. There is also no history of precedent criminal behavior. His prior penalty related to a motoring offences as does not indicate a pattern of reoffending. With robust bail condition in place, particularly the electronically monitored curfew, the risk of reoffending can be effectively managed.
Why should the court treat this as a compelling case for bail when many defendants face personal hardship upon remand?
Your Honor, while it is true that many defendants suffer hardship in custody, what distinguishes this case is in the interconnected humanitarian impact on a third party, namely Mr. Penn, whose welfare is directly and severely affected by the defendant's continued detention. This is not a general play of hardship. The evidence shows that Mr. Pine has been hospitalized and will shortly be discharged without any career in place. She is financially reliant on the defendant's support and she has no immediate alternative for either care or income. The European Court of Human Rights has made clear in cases such as Mary versus UK 1996 that Article 5 rights must be assessed with proportionality in mind. Her prolonged detention imposes disproportionate hardship not just on the dependent, but on a vulnerable third party who has no culpability in the alleged offense. Balancing the statutory concern against the human consequences. This is a case where carefully managed bail rather than continued custody would better serve the interest of justice. Thank you.